Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can analyze the mental health and personality factors that may be at work in the Christopher Dorner case. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this content, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. So here I'll be looking at Christopher Dorner's background, the timeline of the crimes, then move to the mental health and personality factors. So starting with the background, Christopher Dorner was born on June 4, 1979 in New York, but he grew up in California. He graduated from high school in 1997 and from college in 2001. He was a Navy Reserve officer until 2013, and he joined the Los Angeles Police Department, the LAPD, after graduating from the police academy in 2006. He married a woman named April Carter. He was married from April 27, 2007 to May 24, 2007. So it seems like things didn't work out there. His probationary period for the police was extended because he was called into the Navy Reserve. He resumed his work with the police in July 2007 under training officer Teresa Evans, who reported that Dorner complained on their first day together about how the LAPD had responded to complaints he made about classmates. He also said he was going to sue the police after he completed that probationary period, and he cried in their police car, asking to be taken back to the academy for more training. Evans noted that Dorner was eager to see racism in every encounter that they made. Evans and Dorner responded to a call about a disturbance at a hotel in San Pedro, California on July 28, 2007. The disturbance was caused by a man who had schizophrenia and dementia named Christopher Gettler. 2 weeks after this call, Dorner received a performance review from Evans outlining a need for improvement. The next day, Dorner filed a complaint saying that Evans had kicked Christopher Gettler when they were in that hotel 2 weeks prior. The LAPD conducted an investigation that lasted for 7 months. The finding was that Evans did not kick Gettler, and Dorner had falsely accused Evans. The LAPD fired Dorner in 2008 for providing false testimony. Dorner appealed the decision. The judge ruled that he was not sure if Evans kicked Gettler, but either way, he was going to hold up Dorner's termination. Officer Evans would walk around for years, carrying her service weapon everywhere she went, fearful that Dorner would try to get revenge. Now moving to the timeline of the crimes. We start with February 1, 2013. A package arrives to Anderson Cooper, sent by Dorner. It contains a DVD that outlines Dorner's grievances with the LAPD. There's also a coin in the package that has several bullet holes in it. February 3, 28-year-old Monica Kwan and 27-year-old Keith Lawrence are shot to death as they sat in Lawrence's vehicle outside a condominium where they lived in Irvine, California. Monica Kwan is the daughter of a former LAPD captain named Randall Kwan. Randall had represented Dorner in the dismissal hearing held in 2008. February 4, 2013, 1:15 a.m., Dorner publishes an 11,000-word manifesto on his Facebook page. In this manifesto, he discusses how he's going to kill police officers in order to clear his name. I'll cover some of the other information in the manifesto when I get to the mental health and personality factors. February 6, the police make the connection between Dorner's first two victims and Randall Kwan, and they name Dorner as a suspect in those murders. February 7, 1 a.m., 2 police officers are flagged down by a man who says he saw Dorner at a gas station in Corona, California. The officers started following Dorner's pickup when Dorner stopped, exited the vehicle, and fired at the officers. A bullet grazed the head of one of the officers, and their police vehicle was disabled. 1:20 a.m., 2 Riverside police officers are fired upon as they're stopped at a traffic light. 1 was killed, and 1 was injured. 3 a.m., Dorner tries to steal a boat in San Diego, but the motor wouldn't turn over because Dorner had thrown the mooring rope into the water. It became tangled in the propeller. A few hours after this, Dorner's 2005 Nissan pickup truck was found on fire near Big Bear Lake, which is about 80 miles east of Los Angeles. On the same day, February 7, at 5:30 a.m., without warning, LAPD officers fired at a Toyota Tacoma that was driving down the street in the city of Torrance, California. Two females, 71 years old and 47 years old, were in the vehicle. They were delivering newspapers. The police claimed the vehicle was suspicious because it was being operated without its headlights on. The 71-year-old female was hit in the back, and the 47-year-old was hit in the hand. Both would survive, even though the police fired 103 bullets at the truck. In that same shooting, the officers also hit 9 other vehicles and 7 homes, demonstrating their marksmanship talent. None of the police officers involved in this incident were charged with crimes, as the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office said there was insufficient evidence to prove the officers acted unreasonably. Furthermore, they would not even lose their jobs. The 2 women would eventually win $4.2 million from the LAPD. Around that same time, still on February 7, Torrance Police Department officers intercepted a Honda Ridgeline driven by a 38-year-old white male because he was entering a neighborhood where an LAPD captain was being protected. The driver was directed by the police to make a U-turn, which he did, and then he was rammed by a police car containing 2 officers. One of those officers fired 3 shots into the vehicle. The man was not hit by gunfire, but he was injured in the collision. He would win $1.8 million in a lawsuit. The officers were not charged criminally. They said that the man was speeding, and this, combined with Dorner's threats, justified their actions. I wonder if these penalties were on the driving test in California. Penalty for no headlights, 103 bullets. Penalty for speeding, being rammed and shot at 3 times at close range. I don't even want to know the penalty for tailgating. I guess this is where we see the police flamethrower. Another point here, other than the obvious problems with shooting at innocent people, how is it that these police officers could not tell the difference between a full-size Nissan Titan and a mid-sized Toyota Tacoma and Honda Ridgeline? How did they even get back into the correct vehicles when they return after responding to a call? Did they return to the precinct driving a school bus and say, "Oh, I thought this was my Chevy Impala. I wondered why the police car turned yellow and it was full of children"? There's just some things that police should know. Identifying vehicles is pretty important in that line of work. February 11, Dorner was charged with murder and attempted murder. February 12, the police get a call from a couple who was attacked and tied up by Dorner. He had stolen their Nissan Rogue. Several officers pursued Dorner after one of them searched Nissan Rogue on the internet to find out what it looked like. Sadly, that's not humorous. That's actually what happened. They just didn't know what a Nissan Rogue was, so they looked it up. I guess if you don't know, it's better to look it up than just go shooting at vehicles, which would have been the normal course of action. Dorner crashed the SUV into a snowbank and then carjacked a Dodge pickup truck. He took shelter in a cabin near Big Bear Lake. From that cabin, he fired on officers, killing one and injuring another. Officers fired pyrotechnic tear gas canisters into the cabin, which caused it to catch fire. A single gunshot was heard as the cabin was burning down. February 15, 2013, an autopsy shows that Dorner died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now moving to the mental health and personality factors. This case is fairly interesting in the sense that there is a lot of disagreement about what could be happening with Dorner's mental health. I've seen theories about psychopathy, narcissism, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, paranoid personality disorder, and some say that there are no mental health issues evident here at all. Neighbors described Dorner as someone who kept to himself, but was personable, intelligent, honest, thoughtful, and sensitive. Others, though, realized that Dorner had some problems. There may be some clues about his mental health in his manifesto. Let's take a look at a few of the items in that manifesto. He says that people will be in disbelief once they hear what he has done because it seems out of character. This is how he sets up his narrative. He then defines the word name by suggesting that a name is really a legacy. He describes the whole incident where he accused the officer of kicking a mentally ill individual. He described how he filed complaints against recruits in the academy, saying that they used racial slurs. He said the recruits were not punished sufficiently. He said he was betrayed and lost faith in the system. He claimed that the wrongdoers have awoken a sleeping giant. He issued advice to what he referred to as citizens/non-combatants, asking them not to render aid to downed officers/enemy combatants. So it's clear how he kind of divided people up. He had messages for many people, including police officers who had wronged him, and an assistant principal in his high school who he accused of lying. He asked that his brain be preserved to study the effects of severe depression. He was disappointed he would not be alive to watch the movie Hangover 3. He had a number of compliments to people that he liked, calling them great friends, while mixing in unkind words for people he did not like. He had a lot of advice for politicians, actors, comedians, movie producers, and others. The manifesto was rambling, and parts of it repeated. It was really disorganized, just like a bunch of random thoughts. It was also written as though people who were named in it would care about what Dorner thought about them. Like all those celebrities and politicians would look at his advice and say, "Thanks, Christopher, for thinking of me before you went on that killing spree." I think the essential message of this manifesto was that Dorner was wronged by bad people. Those people needed to make changes, and Dorner was going to facilitate those changes through violence. So where does all this leave us in terms of aligning his behavior with mental health constructs? I wish there was more information on his early years, but based on what's available, it seems reasonable to believe that he was both paranoid and depressed. Another possibility I've seen discussed is this idea he was having first break psychosis, so perhaps developing something like schizophrenia. This would explain the paranoia, but we don't see any other reports that he was disorganized or having hallucinations or delusions. I think his behavior better aligns with paranoid personality, along with some antisocial and narcissistic traits. He had a number of symptoms of vulnerable narcissism specifically. He was resentful, distrusting, he was always looking for an excuse to falsely accuse somebody, and just the fact he maintained his level of anger for 5 years, this is really quite unusual. He was angry from 2008 to 2013. Even if he was wrongly terminated in 2008, few people would hold that level of anger for 5 years. Paranoia and narcissism would explain why he was relatively high functioning, but still believed he was always the victim. This is a dangerous combination. Someone who builds resentment for years and then acts on it without a fear of dying. In his mind, this was perhaps a hero's quest or simply a way to settle the score. Narcissists always have a ledger of when people have done something bad for them or done something good for them. There are always more bad occurrences in them. Whenever a narcissist commits to trying to balance that ledger, it can get deadly, as it did in this case. A few other interesting points about this case. The accuracy of the shooting by the police officers was abysmal. This is interesting, though, because it was a good thing for Christopher Dorner, and it was a good thing for those innocent victims driving mid-sized pickups. If the police had been more accurate, someone could have been killed. Another item that stands out to me in this case is how easily the LAPD cracked under the pressure of a killer like Dorner, somebody that was targeting them. Within a few days of this stress, they were shooting at innocent people. The wheels just came off. Not that the wheels flying off of a metaphorical vehicle would be any more easily recognized by these officers than a regular vehicle. Now, it's just not only the shootings, it's also the tactics. Why did they send protection details to all these officers that were threatened, instead of moving the officers to someplace safe where they could control the environment? Did they really want gunfights to happen in these neighborhoods? My last item here, some people regard Chris Dorner as a hero. He was no hero. The only injustice he was trying to correct was the one he falsely believed happened to him. It's likely this case was really about vulnerable narcissism fueled by paranoia. So those are my thoughts on the Christopher Dorner case. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching. Do they return to the precinct driving an ice cream truck and say, "Oh, I thought my police car had fewer freezers in it"? Do they return to the precinct driving an Uber and say, "Oh, I thought it was strange that I dropped a passenger off to yoga before heading back to the station"? What do they write on tickets under vehicle type? Well, it was a late model boxy thing made of steel, had some rubber tires, steering wheel, looked like it had paint on it. Do they return to the station in a lawn tractor and say, "I wonder how I made $30 cutting that lawn on the way here"?